Keir Starmer is going to rip up regulations in order to boost the economy. Starmer made this statement in a call with Donald Trump. A Downing Street spokesman said the two men discussed trade and the economy with the Prime Minister, setting out how we are going to deregulate to boost growth. And it is a consistent thing for the Prime Minister to be saying. Both he and Chancellor Rachel Reeves have been emphasising it in various guises over the last few days, as they've really lent into their desire for economic growth. Now, I would like to remind people of an image. This is the result of deregulation, of course, that is Grenfell. Calling for deregulation for economic growth is right-wing economic policy, and it's no different to the policy of Liz Truss. Kevin, before we get onto the Trump stuff, what is your response to Starmer talking about deregulation?
Well, it's not massively surprising. We know that the neoliberal brain rot has infested the Labour Party to its absolute core. People voted for change, and what we're getting is continuity Cameronism. It's just Cameron and Osborne 2.0. It doesn't surprise me in the least. And of course, what will be even less surprising is the fact that it won't work, because it didn't work the first million times they tried. It's very much the World War I strategy of getting out the trench and walking very slowly into machine gun fire and hoping you don't die. Again and again and again and again. And all it happens is that money gets filtered up into the pockets of the richer and the richer and the richer, and the working conditions and general life conditions of the poorest get worse and worse.
After the call between, and we're going to get on Trump anyway, after the call between Donald Trump and Keir Starmer, Starmer was actually given praise from the US president. Donald Trump has said he thinks Keir Starmer has done a very good job so far. The US president said he and the Prime Minister get along well, despite Keir being liberal, which is a little bit different from me. But I think he's a very good person, Mr. Trump said. I think he's done a very good job thus far. He's represented his country in terms of his philosophy. I may not agree with his philosophy, but I have a very good relationship with him. We certainly know part of the reason why Trump is making positive noises with Starmer, and that's due to his deregulation agenda. And we've got a video clip to show you which explains a bit more.
But one thing that Downing Street does appear to have emphasised in this phone call is what it's called the UK's push for deregulating to achieve growth. Now, that does really chime in with what the Chancellor has been talking about over the last few days, but more importantly, it also chimes in very much with Donald Trump's own political agenda. That will have been potentially music to his ears.
Now, Trump is notorious for attacking other leaders, and you don't get support from Trump if you politically disagree. I've never seen Trump claim that, oh, well, I like this person. I think they're great despite political differences. I've never heard that before. So it's clear that the praise is because Starmer and Trump are a lot closer on political issues than you might think, especially on the economy. But that's not the only thing. Starmer also praised Trump on his handling of Gaza. The Prime Minister paid tribute to President Trump's role in securing the landmark ceasefire and hostages deal in Gaza. The President welcomed the release of Emily Damari and sent his best wishes to her family. They discussed the importance of working together for security in the Middle East. Now, we know that Trump's so-called deal with Israel was entirely at the fault of the Democrats, but he is in no way sincere about peace and the Palestinian people. We also have yet again an example of Starmer shown to be a hypocrite. An endorsement from Donald Trump tells you everything you need to know about what is wrong with Boris Johnson's politics and why he isn't fit to be Prime Minister. I agree with Starmer. I mean, what kind of person are you that warrants such nice words from Trump? Kevin, I want to get your thoughts on Trump and Starmer's praise for each other.
Yeah, well, firstly, it's probably best that they don't have the sort of kick-off to their relationship that he had with Mette Frederiksen, the Danish Prime Minister. Thankfully, he hasn't demanded some of our sovereign territory, which is nice, I guess, from an ally. Anyway, yeah, what he sees in Starmer isn't necessarily a political acolyte in that Starmer believes anything, because Starmer doesn't really believe anything, and that's why Trump likes him, because he's malleable. He can be bought, he can be cajoled, he can be bullied, because ultimately he's just what you want him to be. If you have either the money or political clout and power to force him to do something, he'll do it. Nothing isn't for sale, including the NHS, including British foreign policy. If you look at the way in which he literally put on hold the transference of the Chagos Islands to Mauritius so that the then incoming president could have a look at it. I'm sorry, are we a sovereign nation or are we not? Apparently not, according to Keir Starmer. So yeah, so Trump doesn't like him because he's their political acolytes. It's because he can be a yes man. He can be a nodding dog. He can be Donald Trump to his George W. Bush, right? He can be that lapdog that he needs the British Prime Minister to be. And again, he wants the British American governments to be able to American companies to be able to buy the NHS. Basically, I think is one of the key things he wants from any kind of free trade agreement that might take place. And in terms of Palestine, especially, it's grotesque to see these two evil Zionist bastards lie consistently. Trump is not in favor of peace in that region in the slightest. We have seen him call for the outright ethnic cleansing of the entirety of the Gaza Strip in the last few days. We know now, seemingly, that the peace deal that he, quote unquote, brokered, which he didn't really, but whatever, is essentially a way of distracting from the Gaza Strip, drawing focus to the Gaza Strip so that no one focuses on the fact that one of the first things Trump did when he got into office was remove the US government's sanctions on illegal West Bank settlements and settlers, so that's now emboldened them to go further and further. And we're now seeing mad Zionist physical attacks on Palestinians who live in the occupied territories in the West Bank. He's not in favor of peace. He's in favor of the Greater Israel Project. And we know this because even going back months before the election, the way in which he got so much money out of Miriam Adelson was the guarantee that the north of Gaza would be able to be occupied by Israel if he became president. And so she funded through PAC money, huge amounts of money, to ensure that Donald Trump became president in order to further that Zionist agenda.
Yeah, I'm going to come on to Donald Trump's calls for ethnic cleansing on the Palestinian people. But what I find so interesting about Donald Trump's comments, I find it very strange that he says, oh, look, we politically disagree, but I find him a good person, a good man for the country, stands up for his beliefs or his philosophy. And I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I've never seen Trump say that. I've only heard him basically attack political leaders who disagree with him and call them crazy, insane. And I think the sort of Starmerites and the liberals would say, okay, maybe Keir Starmer's a bit more right-wing than we expected, but the idea that him and Trump are in any way comparable would be insane. And for me, looking at, broadly, yes, I would say. I wouldn't say that Keir Starmer's a fascist like Trump. But if we look at the individual policies, of course, on the economy, they both believe in deregulation. It's a Thatcherite policy.
Yep.
And of course, Starmer is praising Trump on supposedly a peace deal. So clearly, there's a lot that they agree with. And of course, we're not privy to the conversation they had. They've only told us what we need to hear, I guess, or what they want us to hear. So there could be a great deal of things that they agree on. There could be the NHS up for sale, our public services up for sale. We know that Starmer is absolutely happy to sell off our public services. And of course, Trump and America, I mean, this is bigger than Trump, obviously, like whether it's Obama or any other president, they absolutely wanted to take our public services and use it for profit.
Look, Starmer appointed Wes Streeting, a man with known financial connections to the private healthcare industry, as the Minister for Health. That's it. That's all the sign I need that they're trying to open the door. The Tories know to a degree it's going to be difficult politically for them to privatise it, but because the Labour Party has this historic connection to the NHS as the party that in government founded the NHS, that they probably can get away with it because they can do so with a sense of plausible deniability. Like, well, we wouldn't sell off the NHS, it's our baby type thing, when that's exactly what they're planning to do, clearly and obviously. I can only go back to sort of the point that I made a second ago. And actually, the tweet you mentioned or showed on screen from Keir Starmer attacking Boris Johnson for having gotten an endorsement from Donald Trump is exactly the reason that Donald Trump likes Keir Starmer. Not because he said bad things about him, but because he's so unbelievably two-faced that he's prepared to say that Donald Trump is a massive piece of poop in one breath, and then when it becomes politically convenient to go the complete 180. That's why he got on with David Lammy. Anyone who's prepared to be that unscrupulous and be that principleless is a person that Donald Trump can do business with.
Precisely. He sees Starmer as someone I can pretty much weaponize and use, because it's true, Starmer has he's an empty vessel, and it doesn't matter what Lammy and Starmer said in the past, because I mean Lammy is gassing up Trump even before they met. So you're absolutely right there. It's basically Keir Starmer is whatever I want him to be. And that pretty much goes for the billionaire class, the corporations who funds the Labour Party. They see Starmer as someone is basically, this is the man we want him to be. We can make him in our own image.
Yeah.
He's one of the least principled politicians in my entire life. One of the least principled, probably in British political history.
Between him and David Lammy, it's a tough call as to
which one
is less principled. There have been worse human beings in general who have been in mainstream British politics, including, of course, the most recently deposed government of the United Kingdom. But in terms of lacking any semblance of moral principle, I'm drawn back to the old Tony Benn quote about the difference between an honest and dishonest politician. And he goes on about it being the difference between being a signpost and a weather vane. The signpost points in one direction because it's the correct direction, according to them, whereas the weather vane goes with whichever way the wind blows. And Keir Starmer and his government is the ultimate weather vane government.
Support independent media, support social justice that's there on social media. Thank you. Turn left.